Tucker, what'd you have for breakfast?
I had an egg and cheese. Rolling. Did you start over?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go through. Oh, okay. I guess let's start out. Like, what are you doing here now? What's going on here now in New York?
I agreed to. You want me to look at you?
Yeah.
I agreed to do this design and violence debate with Rob Walker, who's like a culture and consumer society expert or something. So we're going to debate the, I think, signification and ethics and artistic merit, political content of Liberator as an event or as design, kind of all of that. They really reduced. They wanted to fit it into a debate format, so they've got like a very simple motion that we're going to be like kind of before and against, but neither of us is really for it or against it. It's just kind of like the prompt for the conversation. So it's just very weak. We can't limit open source design, pro or con. But hopefully that will be, the starting point for us to unpack all these other ideas and hopefully just to argue with each other in the end.
So, what do you mean? Neither of you are for or against what?
Well, so they advanced MoMA. I don't know, man. I've never done like a formal debate, so this is kind of my first moderated like debate.
What about high school and college?
I was interested in the debate team because there was this hot chick on the debate team in high school, but I never, no. The idea is like, they gave us like 4 topics to choose from, or 4 kind of proposed motions. And we picked the one that was like the least about rights and, the Constitution. It's kind of not even, like, it's just not the conversation either of us was even trying to have. So we just picked this very neutral one about what does open source design mean and can it be limited? Or should it, is one of the implications,
All right, so let's go back to October. Basically, when I left you, you guys were looking for new digs, new office.
Oh, Detroit? Is that what you're talking about?
You were talking about Detroit. You were also like, you were looking around Austin. Like,
Yeah.
You were just looking for a spot. Like, what happened with that?
I lost. We're losing the warehouse, that tiny little closet I've got. Losing that in April, so I'm gonna move 45 minutes east of Austin, I think, to another spot. It hasn't even been built yet, but we went ahead and put in our application with the ATF because you have to apply like 30 days before you intend to move. So I'm gonna move where we do some of our prototyping in our like firearms location. But in the end, I'm staying right where I am. My lease expires in 120 days, but I don't have another spot. John's in Austin. I've hired John full time now. We're gonna develop some things. We're gonna develop. I don't know what I want to say though, but then again, this like movie's gonna be later, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at this point not even more than a year out.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're gonna develop. I'm actually gonna talk about it a little bit in my speech today. Like it's a CNC concept, so it's like a computer-driven mill, but like in miniature, and it might only have like one application, like very tiny. We think desktop kind of thing. It locks in like the takedown pin area of a AR 80% lower for an AR-15, and 80% lower is not considered a gun by the ATF. It's just like a block of metal in an interesting shape. If you mill it out anymore, it becomes it becomes a gun, kind of magically. This machine will do that. This machine will just mill out your 80% lower for you and turn it into a lower. So it kind of removes slightly your need to take an 80% lower to a gunsmith or to a miller and then run the machine yourself. It has an extreme, like, not extreme, but a very specific, like, discursive context. This is something that only people in the gun community would really seize upon and recognize. But it short circuits a certain kind of game the ATF is playing with everyone right now. Because it's all well and good to print your guns out of plastic, and to print your lowers out of plastic. But if you can make it out of metal, this is the thing they're busting people for in California right now, milling AR lowers and selling them and stuff. If that gets moved into people's homes again, it further problematizes digital manufacture of assault weapons. And I think it's good, and we'll name it I think that we'll name it the Ghost Gunner, after a very specific, I gotta give you the context of it, but Kevin DeLeon is this guy, the state senator in California, and the whole idea of a gun that can't be encoded or kind of first conceived by the state or something, raises a specter for him, like this is a ghost gun, and his activity is to dispel the ghost. So that's what we're gonna create, the ghost gun, we're gonna give it to him. We're gonna sell it. See what I'm saying? We might even copyright it, and then have to, you know, he'll have to change his bill.
Is this a bill that he wrote? He's trying to get passed.
Yeah, it's a neat rhetorical trick he's doing, which taps into the kind of, it's a reified fear that we gave them, you know, with 3D printed gun. Oh my God, you know. So he's given it a beautiful name, which like intimates how the progressive conscious actually sees these things as kind of, you know, phantasms, and so the only thing to do then is to take that signified and switch it and commercialize it and kind of fold it back into the ironic commercial structure, and then now we're like literally producing ghost guns, you know, like it was. Whereas before maybe it was a kind of, maybe it was a rhetorical device, maybe it had some content. Now it only refers to a specific kind of commercial activity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's gonna be fun. The video and everything will be good.
Who is this guy?
He's just he's like a Feinstein acolyte. He wants to ban assault weapons in California. He's trying to be an up and comer. You know, he's a young state senator, I think. I haven't heard.
He's a senator.
A state senator in California.
What's his name?
DeLeon. DeLeon's his name.
Okay, I might have to pay him.
Kevin DeLeon. Oh shit. Well, don't tip him off.
I'm not gonna
about...
tip him off. No.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I would want him to explain to me what the whole concept of this ghost guy.
Yeah. It's a really useful descriptor. I mean, it's a great way of characterizing it. And this is specifically what I'll say at the museum today. I didn't have the vocabulary for it then. I understood there was something about what we were doing, especially when we just got to lowers, that was haunting them. Something of like the black magic, you know, and like something from the beyond when I was printing these lowers out of materials like green and white, especially in white. And John will back me up. I insisted on white. Once it kind of occurred to me, it was like this is like something that's not supposed to be here, something from outside, and yeah, ghost is a great way of thinking about it. Like, and there's all this metaphor here to kind of deal with. So I love that he did it. Like, you know, I knew we were giving them a nightmare, and he kind of explained, he further articulated a dimension of that nightmare,
Mm-hmm.
which is something spectral. You know, something, I don't know, man. Supernatural.
It seems like your design is
Yeah.
of utmost importance to you. I mean, you certainly, whether it's subconscious or not, you think about it a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, particulars matter, but yeah, like I don't know if it was that way in the beginning. You know, in the beginning, you have maybe a much more constrained set of goals, but then you see all these available, I don't know, like potentialities, and so I'm not gonna ever act like I'm some conscious artistic designer or something, but you know, you can depend upon or intuit certain reactions from these people with obvious presentations. So, and in the end, like they want to be, you know what I mean? Like they want the ghost story. Like that's what's interesting. Everyone wants a ghost story. You know, everyone wants to be afraid. Like it's fun for them. It's fun for us. You know, I don't know. Like it's this feedback loop. You know, we're giving them what they want. And I think to jump the shark with it would be like the much more interesting part. Like what if the ghost gunner or whatever, you know, the Gen 1, we'll call it the Casper, you know, like in the MakerBot tradition or something, you know, what if this becomes like a serious commercial activity associated with capital? Well, then they have to back off. Well, I didn't mean no ghost guns, you know, I didn't mean that. I meant something else. You know, you have to kind of occupy their position and then like actually mean it. And then like, well, we don't mean this, you know, small business and, do you know what I mean? Jobs and all this stuff, productivity, and they have to find like a new descriptor, which is just perverse. But it would be good to finally be on that side of the equation. So, yeah, we'll try to make money with it.
How would it become? How could it become a legitimate small business?
I'm just it can't as long as we like are totally fronting it. But think about this: we're gonna open source.
No, if it wasn't you, I'm talking about like if it wasn't you, like if.
Well, because they can't. Look, there's an obvious distemper for gun culture from these people, especially in California. They hate it, but they can't come out and say hardworking, salty earth gunsmiths and people like this, you know, are terrible human beings, and they're just making their living, you know, and it's in a trade, and it's like, you know, it's very close to labor, and so they can't come out and vilify it that way. They have to kind of abstract it, and so to take their abstraction and to concretize it and actually turn it back into something that's a productive activity recognized by a lot of people and kind of done as a practice is again to kind of like make them again like shift over, and you see what it is. It's a bit, in the end, it's small ball, it's small points. It's only something that the gun community would recognize. But they need encouragement. They need laughter. They need to be cynical, but also kind of like superior. They always recharacterize themselves over and over again every season into this kind of bitter and like battered minority that's always facing the overwhelming oppressive weight of the state, and always constantly worried about the ATF kicking you in the door. I mean, to kind of like make laughter out of that problem, to take one dimension of it and again like retailize it or something is, I mean, hilarious and like worthwhile. And that's where we're gonna go, I think. Yeah. Next, and in the second half of this year, we should begin printing in carbon fiber, printing long strand carbon fiber, fiberglass, which I think is a kind of critical dimension of the story of the future of 3D printing. Like, well, if the Liberator is somehow like the worrying template of times to come, the long strand carbon fiber Liberator variant is the worrying time to come, and it is that time.
Now, why is that? It's just a better material, stronger
I
material.
mean, the way we're looking at it, I mean, some of these objects, some of these pieces we make will have material properties similar to aluminum. I mean, we're there. So, and it's on your desktop. I mean, we're not talking about, some of the commentary was, well, Liberator, right, harbinger of, the weird digital manufacturing 20 years in the future or something. Not really. I mean, there will be like hybrid forms that are ready a few months from now. Ready today if we had access to the techniques. I can't create another moment like Liberator with it though, because of my pending kind of totally suspended State Department matter. I can't create something new and publish it, at least the way that we did. So maybe we can risk it with doing a carbon fiber AR lower, because the AR lower is considered to be in the public domain, at least its common pattern is. So we could do something like that and kind of, again, there's some contestation there. There's an element of defiance or something, but there's a lot of downside. But I really want to demonstrate that these printers are ready to go and to do some of this, and to create an experiment, and get some money to do some of that as well.
So if you can't do it because of the legal purposes, the legal issues, what exactly are you going to do?
I don't think I can. I mean, so I can't go to that moment of publication, that kind of WikiLeaks style.
Like you can't put it up on the internet.
Right. But I can make images, and this is a society of images. This is.
Okay, so you can just say, we did it.
Well, I can like make a video of it. I can kind of turn it into something and then
but
prompt.
You can't share it with the world.
I can share it with the world in a very visual way, but right, I can't share the file. And this has been, I don't have the problem yet, but it will be the problem if we have really interesting IP, if you will. I can't share it. I mean, I could, but then that shuts me down in a real way, in a way that I haven't been yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's to throw everything.
So what's going on with the case? Because I talked to Goldstein over the phone for a long time, and he.
Oh, did you?
He basically said they don't know what to do with you.
Yeah, it's true.
And he's like, they're rewriting the laws at the moment.
Yeah.
So could you, I guess, just.
Well, did he tell you about the arms export like reform initiative for the past like 15 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and there's been some crazy stuff that under Obama's tenure has kind of. I'll bring this up at the museum too. I mean, they redefined defense article. I'll show you in the text. It says like a defense article is that which has the property of being a defense article. It's like this beautifully circular, like perfectly Kafkaesque kind of. So in the end, like there's this inertial movement toward DoD just being able to like by fiat, diktat, determine what is military, what is intelligence advantage, what is theirs, a kind of monopoly of data and creative content. And this isn't actually just about guns. I mean, it's about all these other things. So they have no coherent position because again, they have a Cold War. They have like vestigial pieces of a Cold War superstructure. That's how they still consider data flows and arms flows, and that's what that whole thing at state's about. There's no way to ramp it down either. I mean, like you can't even challenge it with a traditional jury system. I mean, you can't. A lot of these determinations can't be challenged by a judge. You got to go up to the high court, and then the high court say some of this can be challenged by. You know what I mean? Like it's hopelessly fucked. So, but they recognize that what my situation is more of a policy consideration than an actual enforcement consideration. They've got to set some kind of precedent. They've got to have some kind of idea of what to do. And at the same time, though, they can't avoid arbitrary and capricious enforcement. They're an enforcement division of, at best, 20 people against a world of 6 billion, you know? I mean, how many billions of people might one day, you know, circulate data like this? It's not looking good, you know? Right. And then there's my prospect of becoming roadkill. I don't know. I have a way of like that matter. I don't have a way of like explaining it to people in an interesting way. Like it's like gripping and it's like terrible and awful and it confirms all the things that you didn't quite know but suspected about how like the military affairs of the states interacting with each other actually govern your behavior as an individual, but you didn't know about. But it's something that's just so far out of most people's experience. It just doesn't. There's no traction, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to October. You guys were looking for an office space, whatever. What's Ashley up to?
Ashley just took a job in. She's gonna see this one day, but thank God. Ashley just took a job in L.A., so she's off my back for a little bit. For like 4 months, she's gonna be in L.A. and she's got some good money on that. So, the thing is, in the end, when we got together, Ashley was telling me, look, you know, my world, you don't have access to my world. This world of like New York startups and stuff and venture capitalists. And she's like, let me take us into these meetings and, you know, we will get money because I've watched all my friends get money. The thing is, that's not true, man, because it's me, you know, and it's my messaging. And though I'm willing to run a company in a traditional way that can navigate, you know, the legal ambiguities and stuff, I am anathema. I am... You know, like, I can have a good conversation with these people and stuff, but that doesn't mean they'll give me any money. And in the end, they recognize everything I'm trying to do is still along a political kind of trajectory. Nobody wants a political startup. You know, they want good apps. They want, and I'm not trying to. You know, there was just this coin summit in San Francisco. I'm not trying to fully take the wind out of what everyone's doing. Everyone's doing great work, for the most part. Good work, great. There's in Bitcoin and other. I mean, people are doing incredible, interesting work. It's just not political, you know, or they're trying to be as neutral ideologically as possible. When you introduce ideology, it's just, you know, people can't stand it. So maybe in a few months we'll come back to DefCAD, maybe we'll get some money, but basically I think I'm just gonna have to take one guy's money, pay one developer, and just slowly build that thing out. Maybe sell it to somebody to make it safer, kind of inoculate it against me. I really think my core vulnerability right now, if I do something again in the press or after Dark Wallet or something, is someone will go back and reinvestigate DefCAD and find some other kind of like, you know, separate case to make against me regarding export, like an argument they haven't advanced yet. So I'm worried that I've kind of left myself vulnerable by keeping that website and those forums up. But I have to. I feel like I've got to keep the forums up at all costs. That's like the collected knowledge of all things gun printing in those forums, at the very least.
Do you lose sleep thinking about that?
In the beginning I did, like right after Liberator, they told me to take those core files down, and I did. The thing is, I left DefCAD up. Everyone was sharing links on the DefCAD forums for all the work they were doing. There was the IRC channels where we don't host the IRC channels, but everyone was a ton of people were using my platform to collaborate to continue the work of building these guns. And I talked to some lawyers and stuff. I was like, look, this is, in my mind, this is pure speech, but I see how they can come in and say, look, you're still doing it. Even if you're not directly hosting it, you're still doing it. And, you know, you can make a strong speech argument, but they can come in and make the argument if they want against you. They haven't done that yet, but right, I've left my ass out. And I got acclimatized to it or whatever, so now I'm kind of used to it. But anytime there's a bump in the road, like what we're going to do with this Dark Wallet thing, we're going to be kind of in your face about it, you know? We're going to be on TV calling out Lawski and stuff. Probably going to put it in the New York Times, just talked to a guy today, you know, visibility. So they're all going to come back and look at what I'm doing. And at this point, I'm so encumbered and like I'm so exposed on all these different fronts. There's got to be something, you know, they can use if they want to frustrate or slow me down.
Who have you talked to about this?
About Dark Wallet?
No, about this vulnerability, like this.
Oh, this is like my oldest, longest current vulnerability. I mean, besides Liberator. So my original attorneys.
Goldstein and them.
Before Goldstein.
What about your parents? Did you talk to your parents about this?
The vulnerability? A little bit. I'm sure in the beginning I talked to him.
What did they say?
you know, they get it. It's just a basic speech thing in the end, you know, like, are you going to stand on that? Are you going to harbor that data? Are you going to, you know, make that stand? And so far we are. And I think their state or whoever, they were cautious as well in their presentation of their approach. So there's a kind of standoff over that site. And it makes me feel, and this is what's sad about it, because it is a kind of disciplinary or modulation type technique. Like, I'm less eager to work on that project because it scares me to go near it, you know? And that's what's sad, like, because, like, they did have an effect on me in the end, you know? As defined as an act or whatever, like, it did affect me.
Has anybody have you talked to anybody about that?
What do you mean?
Like, these vulnerabilities, like, do you go to somebody for advice? Like, do you...
Sometimes, yeah. I have weird mentors, man.
Because what are people telling you to do? Are some people saying, just fucking do it, go balls out? Or other people saying, look, you need to take that shit down?
No, yeah, plenty of people are like, no, there's been no one to say take down the Def Cab forums. I mean, we stand behind some pretty good First Amendment stuff. Same thing with Liberator. In the end, it'll probably be more interesting First Amendment stuff than gun or export-related law. So I think I stand fine and relatively securely. A lot of people think that too, but the kind of mentors that I have or have had, undependable, you know, kind of. Now, I don't really have anyone that's currently advising me. I just kind of have to go by instinct, and, you know, when people get on my nerves, I tell them shut the fuck up. And
surely you talk to your dad about this and stuff.
Not in depth, man. Not anymore. No. You know, he understands the basic stuff, and at this point, we're all kind of past it. Now we talk more about, oh, hey, I saw you on TV. What did you mean by this? What did you mean by that? You know, he's getting back into just enjoying, like, the pure media spectacle and everything. I'm not really talking about tactics. And I told him about the CNC thing. Again, it's not funny or interesting to anyone unless you're specifically in this gun culture, and then, like, all those people immediately get it. But right, you know, and I've told him about doing some carbon printing in the second half of the year, so, you know, we might get some backing for Darkwall at some critical, like, I don't know, but I think that project is about to be where it's just kind of adopted by a wide community of people, which is the safest place for it. So that one's like, there's gonna be a little bit of a roller coaster, I think, on it. Did you see Joe Manchin just came back and was like,
no.
He just came back. He was like, you know I said ban it, but, you know, I didn't mean ban it. And so he's kind of totally walked it back.
This?
It's like yesterday.
That's probably because of what the IRS did.
I think it was his cover. I think he recognized immediately after he said ban it that he's a fucking idiot, and now he used the cover of the IRS opinion to, like, walk his stuff back. Thing is, he left himself vulnerable again. He was like, well, now that I see the direction of Bitcoin is moving toward integration with the current financial system, you know, and I see less possibility for illicit activity, I'm more for Bitcoin now than against it. So he still left himself the potential, I know, just to probably cover his ass and make himself seem reasonable, the potential to change his mind. Well, in the end, we're going to have a media moment, I think, about Darkwall. I don't know how big it will be. I'm going to try to make it as big as possible. But again, this is fully about this light-dark directionality question. So if we move the pendulum back toward illicit and, you know, illegal activity, will Joe Manchin change his mind? You know, I'm going to call him and be like, hey, did you see you know what I mean? What do you think now, buddy? So, he's this beautiful, I just love what he's doing, that he walked it back. He showed that he's vulnerable, you know? I'm happy about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that seems like it specifically ties into what happened with the IRS.
Yeah, I think so.
And we can get into that later, because I think there's a much bigger discussion about what's going on with Bitcoin, and, like, so much has quickly happened since I last saw you.
Yeah.
But let's just go back to, I want to go back, because I've been reviewing the footage from Austin, so I want to go back, have some more questions in regards to what I was filming then. So you and Ashley were about to apply for Y Combinator. Tell me about what happened.
We did apply for Y Combinator. The thing is, you know, I know someone out there. I go out to the Bay Area a few times a year, and the guy I know is closely associated with Y Combinator, and he told me, look, don't even apply, man. They don't want you. It's not the scene for you. Don't even do it, you know. And he should know, without revealing more about who he is. But Ashley wanted to do it, and I was like, Ashley, I got a guy telling me we're not going to get in. You know what I mean? And she's like, no, I know they're managing, like, director of PR. It's going to be cool. So we made a great app. But no, dude, we didn't even make the first round of, like, nothing. So struck out, and that began a series of strikeouts. I took Ashley with me a lot in my DD travels through the fall and in the winter while we were kind of finalizing Dark Wallet.
Yeah, she was there in London.
That's right.
The first time.
As a project, and everywhere we went, she was diligent about setting up meetings with people. Not so much accelerators like Y Combinator, but meeting the kind of people that would be in the orbit of people like Y Combinator. So again, all those meetings were great, friendly, interesting. Everyone gets a crack, like a hoot out of my story or whatever. They love to talk about it, but it didn't go anywhere. We met Detroit Venture Partners. I think, did we talk about my trip in Detroit? Oh, that's because that was right after, we left. I went to Detroit, fabulous hellhole of postmodern city or whatever, just a beautiful ruin, devastated. But then Google has kind of come back in and then like bought up the city center, and Detroit Venture Partners is there, and Quicken Loans, met some of these startup buildings. There's different floors have different segments for a company. When that company grows big enough, they get their own floor, or in the end they move to a different building. So they've got their own kind of startup culture in Detroit. Didn't seem like we were really a fit for that either. Ashley still got some kind of abiding passion for Detroit. So after LA, I think she's gonna move out there, maybe live at the Pony Ride Collective or something. But again, this seems to me her kind of own. She's on her own magical journey of self-discovery or something. It has nothing to do with really a political stance or even the development of DefCat. It's just purely, aesthetic choice. I met the text from last night guy. That guy's cool. Ben Bader. But all these people read Valleywag. All these people are still kind of see themselves, I think, as plugged into a certain mainstream startup discourse. And not that that's a problem. There's tons of money. They're all awash in money. They're all doing big things to some degree or the other, but they're not about, do you know what I mean? Like immediate social change and actually the overbidding and challenging the system and everything. So it's hard to like not feel a certain kind of like psychological homelessness or something when I'm meeting all these people. In fact, that's probably the most challenging stuff I've done in the past 2 years. Have to kind of put on a smile and meet with these people who, we have nothing really in. And I'm not just making it up. Yeah, we dress like we look like maybe, but there's this obvious kind of like remove or tension, and it doesn't get resolved. So I'm happy now that I don't have to keep meeting those people and talking to them.
Well, in my business, in order to get money, you have to show somebody, if they like you and they like the project, that's cool. But you have to show them how they're going to make their money back.
Oh, of course.
So what was Ashley's whole pitch? Like, and maybe I ask
we
her
just,
too, but like, what was the plan for?
Yeah, you should.
DD to make money for their investors.
Well, it wasn't DD in the end. DefCat was a separate company, a C corp. It was a for-profit. DefCat is still organized as a for-profit company with a ownership structure. There was going to be a business plan of some kind, which is a hybrid one, but still based off how other search engines have done their business plans. So revenue shares, ad monetization, and direct placement, things like that. I mean, just a collection of just different early startup search engine business models. And we were describing what we thought was a kind of ramp in adoption of digitizers and the kind of exponential production of visible files and stuff. I mean, it's all the story of where 3D printing is going and everything. I mean, a little bit boring, but I thought there's money. If someone would get a return on investment. And all we needed was, I think, like $250,000 just to hire a few people for 18 months and trying to, prove the product. But I'll be honest, I mean, for the moment, I feel relief that I don't have to work on that. I would feel I think my instinct is that I would be kind of bored if I had the helm of like a company right now, like in Detroit, building a search engine I like traveling right now. I like talking about stuff, and I feel like I'm developing a couple extra ideas that are just more interesting to me naturally, so I'm happy.
Was there a disappointment with Ashley?
No, and I mean everything's still in her mind, and I suppose in mine as well, on hold.
I mean, was she disappointed that she wasn't able to raise the money?
Yeah, of course. It's a hugely frustrating thing. She wasn't making any money for the last year, basically. I have not made any money this last year until I got this book deal, in New York, and the first advance I got, I spent it on my student loans. So, you know, but like we were all facing and feeling like real pressure because I put all the money I had into DD in 2012 and 2013. When I've been like, I feel like I'm not. Here's the thing, man. I'm hungover, so you know, I don't know if I'm giving you what I need to be giving you.
No, you are. No, this is completely. I mean, look, this is like at this point we're playing catch up.
Okay.
Right. So you're saying like there was.
I don't know if it's the level of like intensity or engagement.
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
it's totally cool.
Okay.
So you're saying there was pressure. Ashley wasn't able to raise the money, and
The book advance student loan.
Yeah, So you tell me
I
about
can
the
just
book
through
advance and the whole financial situation. I think that's interesting.
My financial situation improved in the fall of 2013. So I was in. I mean, I always play it a little close. I'm kind of profligate. I mean, just naturally. If I have money, I usually spend it. Amir is kind of the same way. You know, that guy should be Bitcoin rich, right? But as soon as he ever had any kind of value, any critical value, he would sell it. So he has no Bitcoin really. Now DD has a bunch of Bitcoin, and I didn't really start getting an income from DD until the middle of the year. I pay myself like $1,000 a month or something. That's not interesting. Anyway, but what I'm trying to go with this is I had tons of student loan debt from UT Law, tons of credit card debt from DD. I was spending all my personal cards on it, and then all my personal cards for travel, airfare, all these things. And like I was just looking at like tens of thousands of dollars of debt, and with no real plan to, you know, I mean, there was DefCAD at my work. What else was there? You can't pay that stuff down on $1,000 a month. You got rent and food and everything. So, but I got this book deal from Simon & Schuster, and with the first advance, which took a while to get, I was able to pay off basically all of UT, and I feel much more at ease. You know, I feel like I can afford to think, I can afford to, which is good. But Ashley was in the same boat. She hadn't made money in like a year. You know, she was looking at moving, buying a car, doing all these other things, and thankfully she had saved from all her years of working in New York. But the pressure got to her, man, and it got to me too. Her network wasn't providing. She was kind of dumbfounded at the fact that she really thought she had a good idea. She really thought DefCab was like, this is great, you know. She sees her like all these shit ideas getting money all the time in New York. Like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, well, it's a social network, blah blah. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's like experiential networking or something, you know.
With not even the smidgen of the publicity that you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Do.
Like
who
we're.
gives a shit about
Yeah,
these companies?
we're a recognized brand, and I know like I talk shit a lot about what these people do, and yeah, it must seem like sour grapes or something. But Ashley it was through her you could see how dumbfounded she was, because it was like that culture turning around and then seeing, oh my God, but there's so much money. Why can't we? You know, this is a real idea. This could be demonstrated to do something like almost practical, you know, and she couldn't get it, and finally I explained to her, even as late as South by Southwest, just a few weeks ago in Austin. I was like, look, it's your network. It's not you. It's not the idea. It's just your network, and it's me, and the brand is not what these people feel comfortable with. All the money I've ever raised, all the fundraising I've ever done, has been from people who are right on with like with my ideology, basically. With people who are like, look, I don't want it back. Here it is. I've been waiting for someone like you to do this. I mean, that's the level of people. That's the kind of people that we need. Those aren't the people that you know, Ashley. You know, that's not the kind of person she is. You know, and so with DefCat, I think I won't get that money from VCs. I'll have to get it from the people I've always got money from, and then that means that DefCat has to go back down in the stack because there's cooler things to do right now, more urgent and interesting things to do. The forums stay up. The ads pay for DefCat right now, and as long as I'm able to subsidize it, you know, it can remain this kind of outpost against federal aggression or something. So, with the hope that one day we can develop it out. I've thought of giving it to other people, but I just don't, you know, I feel it's safer with me right now.
So then how did she, as after South by Southwest, so she just got a new job? I mean, how did that come about?
Well, I mean, a big thing, like, even at the time when we were in London together, you know, I was like, look, Ashley, Amir, me, everybody that we know, like, these people you've been running around with, we don't just have one thing, you know, we have, like, side hustle, and we just make money how we can, you know, like, you gotta have a side hustle. So she had been looking at and trying to cultivate different opportunities, even lately trying to work with, for commission with Coinbase, the only U.S. exchange, you know, in the game anymore. Kind of like a headhunter for them, bringing business partnerships and stuff to them. And that didn't work out. She wasn't getting the money that she wanted. She didn't get the connection, so she's just going to do this totally alternative thing. But again, we were like, get a side hustle, and then she finally got a side hustle. I really think she thought everything was going to, like, you know, fire on all cylinders for DefCat, and maybe it would have, but there was so many different things so many different variables we don't even understand. I mean, so I can't know, like, what disposition or events, had they not happened, would have allowed for a DefCat funding. And it's all right. I'm comfortable. It was kind of driving me nuts, man. Like, her incessant need to be, I mean, like, she had tied it both to, like, her need for financial security, her need for this thing to succeed. It was too much of a kind of forced, you know, the minute it has to work, it's not going to. So I have a much more relaxed and just, like, reverently cautious attitude about the company and the idea right now.
And she's still like if something came about, like, she's still there.
Oh yeah,
for
like,
DefCat.
if I got funding tomorrow, she loves it. She'd love to be, you know what I mean, like, biz dev for it, or do PR, all that stuff. And she's good at that kind of stuff. What's great, or at least my thought is, there's a certain kind of camouflage or bridge, or I don't know. There's something that company would have that my other stuff doesn't. And Ashley represents that as a person, or something like this weird integration with that community, you know.
Right. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I mean, she was.
And I like that.
She's cool. I liked her.
I like the idea too of it slowly being, like, acceptable.
Yeah.
You know, but maybe that's a kind of siren song or something. I don't know.
So she's in LA. She got a job.
Mm.
Let's see. How'd the book deal come about exactly? Did an agent set this up, or?
Man, so I've been trying to get a book agent, a literary agent, since a year ago, since March of last year. In fact, when I was at South by last year, Hachette approached me about a book deal, and I was like, yeah, right. You know, they were like, I think you got a book in you. I was like, yeah. You know, so I mean, it was very... but then I saw a dimension of what I, at that point, was very used to, immediate rejection, or, you know, like, spurning. I mean, it wasn't just rejection. It was like, a book about 3D printed guns? Not New York City. Like, this is literally the feedback that Hachette gave. And so, like, they ran up the poll, laughed out of the office, you know. And it was, like, during a critical moment, too, you know, like, Mansion Toomey hadn't come up for the vote yet. It was during the whole gun control thing. Like, you have to, like, prove your merit as a good thinking liberal, you know. And no, we're not going to publish the book on the 3D printed gun. And critically, the 3D printed gun hadn't happened at that point yet. Only the kind of other stuff. So I left it alone for a little bit, but an agent approached me he was, like, Texas born. Yes, he's in New York. He's at a place called Foundry here. Matt Wise. He'll be at the talk. He doesn't want to be on camera, by the way. But he was like, look, dude, I think I get where you're coming from. I think I can sell it in a way. You know, he was like, I can sell it with New York speak, but I think I get you. I think I get that this is about other things. Let me try to do this. Let me tell you about our group. And so it's this kind of hybrid boutique rights firm, and I told him what I had in mind, and I wrote a proposal, and in 2 months we had meetings here in Midtown, and again, this is by November, we had the deal, kind of just right after you left. I think I went up to New York, and I went to HarperCollins, Random House, and Simon & Schuster. I had, like, 3 meetings. That's it, you know. We put it out to, like, 16 people, and only the big 3 of the big 6 or whatever got back to us. And at HarperCollins, it was, like, Saul Bellow's son, Adam Bellow, for the editor. And it was like when a first date goes really well, it was like, oh my God, it was amazing. You know, we were, like, communicating about the project and the vocabulary, and kind of like, I think you've got an internal system here that you can really, you know, he was just like in love with the project as like an idea, and but then they ran it up the chain, and apparently the owner of HarperCollins is like British. And he was like, no, I've heard of this. Fuck that. You know, like we're not doing that. And so I really was expecting an offer from HarperCollins because it was just like the most perfect meeting. Didn't happen. Random House wasn't interested. It was just too not a mainstream discourse, you know, like, and then I mean, it was amicable. It was just like, nah, dude, we don't want to. And then Simon & Schuster was like, this is the Promethean tale of, you know, like the millennials, like this is crazy. It was like, we want to give you a hardback deal. We want to. I was like, wow. So it was kind of like two firm no's and an enthusiastic yes. So I lucked out, man. You know.
So what's your book going to be about?
It's like Catcher in the Rye meets the digital apocalypse. It's like an impressionistic, semi kind of novelization of the 3D printed gun episodes, like the trials and the communities, the people, the ideology. It's not really a memoir, but a kind of like sifting of all those events and the like their eventual context, and it'll be good. It'll be good. I stole on proposal. They were like, "Fuck, you can write." So, you know, I think we'll be all right.
There's a fictional aspect to it?
Not really, but I think there's something like an impressionistic aspect to it. So, stylized, you know, like, but no, everything's, I mean, what is factual in the end, but like, everything's based on, you know, the facts. The presentation will be, I mean, it'll be roughly chronological, what we did, how we did it, but it's not like, then we did this, then we did this. It's, you know, it's an excuse to take these different departures into the thinking, and in the end, taking you kind of unwittingly through some of the thinking yourself. So I hope for it to be something of like a rung for the young digital radical to come, you know, like maybe a book more important 10 years from now than tomorrow, you know. This is
Where
all
does it end?
wishful thinking. I keep thinking about where it ends. I'm actually thinking of making it a cycle, actually. Like it ends with me on the phone with Ben, you know, almost in a place where it began. So the terminus of the actual storytelling might be with our meeting with Assange. It might be some moment that has yet to come in Bitcoin, you know. It depends. I think it was incredible that, like yesterday, Leland Yee was arrested in California. You can't have known about this. Did you hear about it? He's like pretty much the biggest gun control Democrat in California, out, other than Dianne Feinstein, from San Francisco, and he was arrested for gun running. He was arrested for trying to get around export control and for trying to hook up these Muslim radicals with like automatics and missiles and stuff. Like, it doesn't sound believable. Go read it. It's in the LA Times and the Post and everything. But this is the second guy that came out after I did Liberator to say we should serialize 3D printers and like monitor their users. I mean, like, this is that guy. And in the end, like, the total irony of the fact that he was like through this Chinese gang running AKs into California, you know, it's beautiful.
It's insane.
It's incredible. I can't give it to you in a way that like it deserves to be given to you, but like, I'm so glad that happened. I'm so glad that Joe Manchin came out just a few weeks ago, and said we should ban Bitcoin, you know, because that's the guy that was trying to seal the deal on banning assault weapons last year. I'm just really glad that there's these coincidental poetries that we get in the hindsight. I'm so glad that Charlie Shrem was arrested. Sorry, Charlie. You know what I mean? But like, the Dark Wallet, the Dark Wallet video is like fucking prophecy, right? I mean, like, I've got Charlie Shrem's face in that thing. You know what I mean? And then the very next thing I say is like, look, you can't have it both ways. And you can't. Just ask Charlie Shrem. We'll go ask him tomorrow. Charlie, you think you can have it both ways now? Yeah, probably not, you know? Like, that needed to happen. So, for the book, I know this sounds totally selfish, but I'm just saying, like, that these things happen is more of a kind of Snowden happened after Liberator. I mean, it was a sea change. There was like an actual appetite for our conversation now. We weren't just fucking crazy. We're still fucking crazy. But you know, like, we're not just that. It's given content, it's given substance, or it's given the appearance of those things. So yeah. And there will be more things.
So the book ends. This is the same issue that I'm having with the movies. Like, I don't know I don't know where it ends.
Yeah.
Things keep changing and developing so quickly.
I think it can be contained episodically as how we did the gun, but I'm trying to consider how much of the reaction to the gun and the kind of fallout and aftermath.
But what's the through line?
What do you mean?
The through line. What are we following? What's
Oh, it's me. It's me. I mean, it's.
What's the journey though? Like, what do you want?
Oh, the hero's journey. Actually, it's a story of. Well, I don't want to give it. Well, it's a year from now. Okay. So it's a kind of story of transformation. In the end, it's like, oh, there's a certain libertarian idea, a germ of libertarianism, which is very simple. Oh, I want to be free from coercion, and oh, I want to experience negative liberty. I'm free as an individual. This is like the political romanization of like the 19th century, kind of something like liberal thought. That's where libertarianism begins. But in doing a project like this, you learn something more critical, deeper, illiberal, a little bit darker, which is that freedom isn't any of those things. Freedom is the ability to have the recourse to this intellectual war machine. Freedom is the ability to fight these people in terms that they don't understand, and to call out their open contradictions, and to kind of deconstruct their institutions, to force crises in their institutions. Freedom is war, something like that. And it's the kind of recognition of that transformation in our project as the real volta of the book. But also, I think it is going to be a proper cultural kind of treatment, and we're going to really take down a few people, but with poetry. There's no clear axe to grind. I'm not going to like bully anyone in the book directly. I think there'll be humor. I think it'll be a good book. I want it to be a good book.
So the journey of the hero is
again, kind of like an anti-hero, right? But I mean, there's something of like a...
What did... in Catcher in the Rye...
Yeah.
Holden Caulfield, what did he...
Catcher in the Rye has no clear through line.
What did he... But it does.
Well, okay. So... But
not that it has a clear through line, but there was something that he was always seeking. And there was something that he discovered at the end.
Right.
About innocence and
so
childlike innocence.
I would say it's... Again, I didn't mean the comparison this directly, but it still works. There is something of this, what did we think we were doing in the beginning? Oh, it was a kind of ambition of a personal exploration of liberty or something. Oh, this liberty is free from the constraints of the state. I mean, even though it begins with something that's still like a nascent anarchism, the experience, all of this thing like weighing down on you progressively, we were in a totally different place by the end of it. And it's about a deeper recognition that, no man, freedom is something else. Freedom is something much scarier than negative liberty.
What is negative liberty?
Just like the absence of coercion. The way a lot of these like libertarians get up and talk about, get the state out of my life, get the government out of my life. I just want to be kind of free from the enclosure of, the machinery of the state. That's one way of looking at it. Free from coercion. Nietzschean is a way to kind of talk about it. Freedom as like this life-affirming, nomadic, kind of warrior disposition. And I'm not trying to romanticize like the soldier or the warrior specifically. I'm not like styling myself as like some crusader. I'm just saying like as an idea, as a mentality. Someone who's on the run like a mirror, literally fashioning weapons. I mean, we were like the itinerant metallurgists. We were like making weapons at the margin of the state, both in its like presence and literally too. We were on the edges of the municipality of Austin. Like we weren't allowed in this like orbit of power, like in this plaza of. And slowly you get this this understanding. It's literally about challenging them and overcoming them and calling their systems into suicide and collapse, and this deep thinking of evil as like a form. I mean, as like absolute disorder, but as like a confirmation of it. I'm not trying to say like we're just like the emissaries of chaos. I don't mean it that way. I just mean as like, in the end, we thought we were fighting for one form, and in the end, we realized we were fighting for a totally different form. Yeah.
So the hero's journey. The hero's journey always starts with like some moment of epiphany, like a catalyst, and your catalyst I assume would be if you're describing your story to me correctly, it would be you realizing that you weren't free.
Oh no, so I'm not mapping specifically against the hero's journey. I have real freedom in how I'm writing this, but
No, but let's just talk.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about like just theoretically, right?
Yeah.
Just not about your book in specific.
so there's no aha moment like I don't feel free. It's not that. It's
Was there never a moment when you realized like, because when you were a kid, you don't think about these things.
So all these years in college and stuff, reading things about like, you don't have the vocabulary to express your unfreedom, the kind of bad conscience of the left with late capitalism, like, you think that you're enjoying your life, but you're really a slave, and you don't know you're in the prison, and these discourses are had all the time. I mean, it's almost cliche now, like, I didn't know I was free, or I was unfree. Nah, man, not really. We were just interested in like alternative political strategies, emancipatory phenomena. Is it still possible to outright elude the state? Can we beat gun control? This is the big thing we had in mind. Like, could we break the paradigm publicly? This is like what me and Ben were really interested in. How could we do it? What would that world look like? And we started selling it to these NRA types, libertarians, as like with these certain valentines to Bastiat and the law and stuff, but in the end it had to become more radical, and then it everything's at stake. You put everything into it, and you realize, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why am I enjoying it? It wasn't. There's like a pure ecstasy and thrill about like being 5 steps away from being in jail. There's something like deeper and scarier and murkier about it, which is not at all connected to the rational rights of man discourse. It's like much more powerful and something of like the intelligence of evil, man. So
what is that connected to?
That comes from watching like the ruptural nature of what you were doing, watching how it's better when I write it down. It's just an intuition that you learn. I mean, and there's something about, like, I don't believe in historical moments aren't possible in this like media world that we live in, but what we did was something else.
So at all?
What we did wasn't like a historical moment. It was one of these media moments. But it was one of these media moments that seemed to come from, not from history, but like it was history that wasn't supposed to happen.
But how can we judge a historical moment like so soon after it happened?
I mean like history as like the strong hypothesis of, another century. Like the idea that, we don't live in history in a sense anymore. Like the proposition, the end of history is essentially true, not as a democratic fulfillment that some people believe, but just as the fact that like we live in this endless succession of non-events. I mean, it's the whole predicate of modern politics, like to make sure history doesn't and can't happen, So like what we did, I don't think was historical because it was immediately museified, and like turned into media, turned into counter media, and it was taken to its like 0 degree of an event. But I tried to do everything I could to put allegory and challenge and discourse and pack it into this little package, and throw it in there like a grenade, and it worked. And it was one of these things that communicated, nah, man, we're not, like, we're not going where you thought we were going. This kind of like permanent plateau of civilization is like a thin veneer, look at this. This is some line of flight to the terror that wasn't supposed to ever be allowed to come to me. I mean, that, even when I started the project, right, the very idea of it, in the beginning, before we ever printed anything, I was getting death threats, man, all the time, right? Because it was a suggestion of an idea. I mean, everyone recognized in just a pure theoretical mechanics, oh my God, there's no way for the system that I was so accustomed to even find the outside of this alternative proposal. There's no way to even confine it. Even in theory. It's just deeper. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to talk about.
Well, you talk a lot about like you did that. Maybe I'm paraphrasing, but you don't consider good and evil.
Oh, as like, yeah. So I'm reading a lot of Baudrillard, but good and evil are used specifically in like a much smaller discourse about happiness and misfortune, like good as a social good, a marginal utility, as like evil as, you know, the actual material violences and setbacks that you have. Like, but no, like good and evil should be considered in their true metaphysical dualistic forms, the way I'm talking about. I'm not interested in good. Good is the enemy. Good is Hegel's synthesis of history in the civil society. Good is, you know, Karl Popper's open society of preserved democratic institutions or something. Good is all the suggestions that the world will be integrated, homogenized, whole, a unitary system, universal morality, universal law and order. Evil is the idea that like these things can never integrate. Some things can never assimilate. Some things will always be broken. As something approaches totality, we see through it. Good is transparency. And what do you see through that transparency? You see evil. These are like forms. This isn't about... I know it's confusing, but it...
Well, how do you react when people like specifically say Cody Wilson is evil?
I've never seen that.
No?
No. I've seen that I've been called a terrorist, but I think that there's an intuition there that's probably right, actually. That's the right way of thinking about it. And I don't try to like get on the no-fly list or whatever. I don't try to be like, yes, you know, call me a terrorist. I want that to say, you know what I mean? But like, actually there's wisdom in that, like, in that naming. So, and for the longest we were reading, just me and Ben, but then I gave it to Amir too, The Spirit of Terrorism, an essay on the Twin Towers, about what is symbolic violence, what is symbolic challenge. It's not interesting to like print the gun, make the gun, and shoot someone with it. The system understands making guns, shooting people with guns, asking people to get together with a bunch of guns. But if you kind of abstract the gun and offer it as a gift into this huge cybernetic system, it can't get the gun out of itself, you know? It spent all of these many decades building this system of totality and modulation and control, and then suddenly there's like, you know, like WikiLeaks is dumping cables, you know, we're putting guns into it. What? This was supposed to be a system of control. What are you doing, you know?
So you're not offended when somebody calls you a terrorist?
No, I mean, if it's, and it's rarely done anymore. It got done a little bit in the fall because I brought the word terror in like a local news interview. But terror is the way of thinking about it. I mean, it's maybe it's irresponsible, like inflicting an idea on people and stuff. This is a terroristic strategy. This isn't like... I just think that, yeah, like there's a model to be learned from some of these other terrorists, these actual terrorists, right? Like in the Middle East and stuff. What are they doing? They're using their death as some ultimate kind of weapon in a system which is just dedicated to the suppression of the idea of death itself. I mean, they understand, like, what they're doing is symbolically violent. There's no way to stop that. What we were doing, I think, at its most violent was in the symbolic. Yeah.
So you feel there's something to be learned from terrorists, from
Oh, no, of
the
course.
terrorists that we fear?
Of course. Like, I'm not, like, ennobling radical throwback fundamental Islam or something. I mean, I'm not. Like, it's not about, oh, this is wise, we should consult the hadiths, you know. I just mean... You know, I'm just saying, like, there's... what Baudrillard says is, like, if Islam is the kind of global capitalistic order, then there would be radical Christians blowing themselves up, right? It's something about the kind of 11th hour of global power that produces this strange phenomena. Terrorism is asymmetrical, right? It's interstitial. It's in the shadows of power. It won't come out and be named. It won't present itself as an opposing power, you know? That's for the era of the 20th century. That's the Cold War. That's the idea of mutual destruction. No, terrorism is viral. It's about reversal. It's about play. It's about hidden appearances. You know, I mean, this is the game is up to that level now. Trojan horses, right? Both in the digital and antiquity sense. So, yeah, the mental diaspora of the networks. I mean, like, there's another game being played, and like I didn't understand any of that at the beginning. Not like I thought I did. I thought we could be like the WikiLeaks of guns. I thought that's kind of like the rough model I had in my mind. You know, we would do what WikiLeaks did for the people, the spy for the people that was Julian Assange. We would kind of self-negate the Patriot Games, or Julian Assange self-negated the Patriot Games, we would kind of self-negate Defense Department. So I named it Defense Distributed. You know? I just didn't realize, I didn't realize how much of myself would just be totally fucked up by it, you know, totally changed. And I intended for it to be all good fun and to be kind of like a goblin. You know, like I knew that they couldn't stop me. There were certain kind of legal harbors, and you know they might try, and I wasn't afraid to kind of risk it. And even though I got by, you know, I've been grazed by power to some degree. Even though I got by, I just feel totally. I mean, even from like a year from now, man, I just feel totally different. You know.
Now, how do you react when people say you're irresponsible? What you're doing is irresponsible.
It comes from a couple different places when they say that. Like, sometimes it's like, well, doesn't liberty bear with it some responsibility? And they chain these two together, and it's like,
No, not now. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I feel so hungover. I just reversed it. This was on like an RT interview I did the other day. She's like, well, doesn't freedom then imply responsibility? I was like, look, there's plenty of responsibility out there. You'd think with all this goddamn responsibility, there ought to be some freedom. You know, I just reverse it. It's a way of, I don't even think it's a way of avoiding it. I think it's like this responsibility conversation from that angle is just one way of hectoring you for, you know, not being socialized, not appreciating the kind of prevailing norms of what democratic consensus or something. And I guess the other way is just saying like you're playing with fire. You're doing, you know, like this has no end. This has no terminus. I agree, but you know, I'm comfortable within the way I'm playing it, and I agree that, or I believe that to a degree, human becoming, self-becoming is about just this very thing. You're making the call about what is the value. You are the truthful one. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like arrogant. It's kind of irresponsible to an outsider, but you're determining what you believe is valuable, what you believe is noble.
All right, let's take a to London and meeting Assange. How did it all go down? And then, well, let's start with how it all went down.
Yeah. This was all brokered by Amir, and I was like, Amir, do you know Assange? He was like, we're gonna get a meeting with Assange. I was like, oh, so you know him? He was like, no, you know, I don't know. And Assange didn't know who Amir was. But Amir's like very canny. Like, I mean, I'm not sure if I mean that actually. Like, but I mean, he can just come through in these unexpected ways. So he triangulated through his contacts, and he found this lawyer, and he found WikiLeaks' lawyer. I forget her name right now, Jessica. I've never met her. So he brokered the deal. He was like, and he did something very shrewd that I didn't realize until I was literally in the meeting with Assange. I just thought Amir had set it up to be like, hey, we're gonna come, we want to talk about what we've done, you know, we want to talk about you know, working together for the future or something, you know, like let's share political ideas. But no, Amir was like, hey, I want to write Bitcoin code for you. He spoke right to Assange's kind of current needs or vanities or something, you know. How can we write Bitcoin software for WikiLeaks? And so this was like the meeting, and I'm in here like, you know, Amir hadn't prompted me at all. I just knew I needed to be there because Amir doesn't. Have you spoken to him yet on the phone?
No.
Okay. You would know what I mean, but you will know. Amir will just tell you what he would tell anyone. Like, there's no context for your conversation. There's no, hi, I'm Amir, let's set up, you know, let's kind of create a manner of relating. It's just, all right, so there's these people I know, you know, like you're supposed to. He just kind of avoids traditional social conventions and conversational conventions. I knew I needed to be there to kind of just like provide context and like structure to what was going to happen. Because this was just going to blow up if it was just Amir and Julian Assange. It would just be like, why are you here? It's like, well, here's what we're going to do for you. Like, what? So I just kept, Amir would say things and I would keep like steering him into different directions. And then I would kind of talk about a political thing that he had overlooked. And anyway, it was this very rough first hour of conversation where we were just kind of justifying why we were there. And I think Assange is just in this mental place of kind of sheer boredom. I mean, he's just having meetings because it gets him out of his room, I think. And he has a note taker, and at first he was very clearly not he didn't know who Amir was. I didn't say who I was. And he said something about MIA just coming by like a few hours ago, talking about the printed guns. And I was like, is this where it was weird. It was just, we talked about printed guns for a little bit. And then finally, we moved into this 4 or 5 hour place where we could just actually, we recognized we were all kind of a common cause. And we talked about what needs to be done, what is being done, getting Snowden out of Hong Kong. Just good things. Things that he'd learned in the cables, readings about Hezbollah, how the deep state works with like Google, how Eric Schmidt and the State Department and Hillary and everybody are just like this, I think he published this in an essay or something, but he was saying how they were trying to get a hold of Hillary for some release of cables they were going to do. They want to warn her or whatever, and he called as far up the chain as he could at State, and then Eric Schmidt's wife calls him back. Like, it's not, she's not like a government official, it's just like, this is just how, he calls it, I think, Family America or something beautiful like that. I've tried to use it a few times since. There's just this Family America idea. So, Kissinger, Schmidt, Greenspan, this idea of this kind of cathedral-esque administration of large corporations and the government together as this kind of united front of the noblesse oblige or whatever. Eric Schmidt is that. He goes on tour like he did last year with his book. It's not even about his book. It's about presenting this front about what's good for America is good for Google, vice versa. Google will be the engine of American foreign policy into the next century. I mean, it's about this like hard integration of these engines out there in San Francisco as actual vehicles of American economic supremacy, dominance, surveillance, everything you would say. But it's done in this very, like bluff, proud way. I mean, like, and this is something I hadn't dwelt on, something that he's written extensively about, and we really talked about it. And Amir and I said things like, we don't believe in rights, and Assange was like, I don't believe in the citizenry. It was just like this beautiful exchange, and little things, like little human moments out of Julian Assange, who's just regarded to be like a megalomaniac or something, probably is. At that level, you've got to be fucking crazy to be the kind of person he is, doing the things that he dared to do. Fine, I accept it all, but there were these beautiful moments where he just kind of conveyed, how he's in this no man's land, between the great powers and stuck in this little cave, and he had been, at the time of our meeting, he had been in that embassy for over 600 days, There were these fat British cops everywhere around there. I mean, when you're at the building, it's just a kind of brown building, but then you see these cops all around it, and a stupid fat cop in the lobby, and you're like, yeah, I'm here. This is crazy. I've read about this, I'm getting too excited about it, but he would just say things like, I really think in the end, and this is what was kind of most gripping about it, I made overtures like, look, we're going to leave if you want. We don't mean to bother you. It was clear he wanted us to stay. Not because we were, like, important people, but because, like, he just wanted the human fucking contact, Like, he just wanted the conversation. We were new people, And it was, like moving, or gripping. And you kind of realize, yeah. I didn't expect that, And we had fun. We talked about Bitcoin and gambling and how to make an events marketplace connected to WikiLeaks to kind of, you've heard of assassination politics or some of these things, like an event marketplace or a leak marketplace where basically, contracts on certain docs that people would kind of bid up that type of leaking activity for the Bitcoin pot or something, It seems to actually integrate pretty well with the WikiLeaks model. So he's thinking really about how to keep his business going. He talked about just how much capitalization they have in Bitcoin and other currencies. I didn't realize during Cablegate they were clearing millions, man. I had no idea. I thought they were doing what they had to do to get by. But this guy is at a level of contacts. This is something I realized as well. I have interesting contacts in the American, especially in American gun politics. I got the best contacts you can have in that space. All the people doing stuff, the people at the high levels, outside the NRA, of whom I have no one, but litigators and activists. I got them all. Calguns, everybody. But that ain't like having governments, He's got like Guatemala, He's got, this guy Amir and I were playing like when we were in Europe not last time, but last year when we were in Europe, maybe in January, we were like, look, we'll get some of that Chinese dumb money to invest in Bitcoin, and we'll use Bitcoin as a lever between the great powers, and this will hasten the collapse of the dollar. You know, it's a very thin kind of plan, but in the end, we recognize geopolitics is how you play the game on a higher level. You know, you play them against each other. We could see that, but Julian Assange can do it. You know, Snowden was smart enough to get out of town, right? But it was Assange that helped Snowden play the U.S. via Russia. I mean, Assange is playing at a higher level, and yeah, I'm not trying to like make him into like the great man or something. It's just clear that he has that. He speaks to governments. He's playing against an incredible and powerful adversary who has nothing but like malice and ill will toward him. I mean, like there's so many radars and technology and stuff pointed at that little embassy. There's this little story I heard at the Chaos Communications Conference. I ran it by Assange. Is this true? I heard that when you had first finally got to the embassy, everybody's phones tipped over and it was saying like "Welcome to Uganda" on everybody's phones. And basically what this means is somebody had set up I forget what you call it, one of these shark proxy towers or whatever. Where it acts like a cell tower, but it's actually a surveillance middleman. And he was like, yeah. I was like, was it the British? He's like, no, it was somebody else. It was some other government. Like he didn't even think it was the British government. And I don't think he thought it was the U.S. either. It was just like there were so many collective spy agencies just kind of all focusing on him. And one group kind of forgot to recalibrate their stuff because they brought it so quick out of theater. You know, it's beautiful. It was just gripping to, yeah.
And yet he's living basically in prison.
Oh yeah. I don't think he sees it as a prison. He's one of these people I think of a certain mental reserve who can handle his current situation. I'm assuming it's something I guess like a prison in that he can't leave. I mean, but he came out of his room. He came to meet us in this conference room, fooled around the computer, for a few hours, sure. And then he went back to his room when we left. And dude, I was aware that like I was able to leave that building and he was not. Like it was playing. And it's something I thought about for a little bit, you know.
How is it different from a prison, from a white collar prison?
It's probably worse than a prison, like to some degree, right? I mean,
worse than a white collar, like
you don't get to go outside.
Yeah.
Right? How much sun does Julian Assange get these days? You know? Hope he's taking vitamin D. I mean, you know. And I don't know if he. In the end, everybody makes hay out of their time with Julian Assange. So I hope if he ever saw this, he wouldn't think that we try to exploit the meeting opportunity or something. Amir has met with him, I think, one other time since, without me. I don't think I have a real relationship with Julian Assange to any meaningful degree, but I had that moment, and I feel like I learned something from it.
So where do you go from there with Assange? Is he going to get behind what you guys are doing in a more vocal way?
We're looking at it, actually. We're looking for like an Assange endorsement of the dark wallet.
Yeah.
I think we can get something like it. He's so busy, but I think we can because we've done the meetings and stuff. So in the beginning, it would have been impossible to just be like, hey, we're Cody and Amir, would you endorse our product? You know, but I think now it's possible. I think maybe I'll go in person to do the ask because I don't know if Amir can consciously close in the exact way that kind of leaves the emotional register with Assange, like, oh, I need to do this, instead of, you know, Amir would just say it as like an offhand comment with not the right emphasis or something.
Right.
And whatever, I'm just saying comparative strengths or something. So I think I'll go and do it, and I think we're in a place where we can do that now. You know, I'll tell you, when I came to London after seeing Assange, it took my phone like 2 hours to connect to the cell, like to the cell services out there. And I thought for a minute, I was like, oh, maybe it's, you know, maybe my GCHQ has been installed since the last time I was here. It's harder for me to connect, you know, since I have to only connect to approved government hubs at this point or something. But look, it's been different connecting to the internet ever since when I go over there.
So is Amir even able to go back to London at this point?
Look, man, Amir's story's weird. I think what's happening to him is that he's a person of interest in a legal matter related to Intersango, which was an exchange in the UK, a Bitcoin exchange. And it seems to me what happened was, because he was scared a few weeks ago when Mt. Gox went down. Now, not because Mt. Gox went down, but when it did, that somehow prompted reinvestigation of his own connection with Intersango, the exchange in the UK. And this had the police come by his mom's place looking for him and stuff. Thankfully, he was in Spain. And the WikiLeaks lawyer was talking about a European arrest warrant, and there's some papers he has to sign in the U.S. related to another matter. It's every time something bad happens in Bitcoin, people start trying to get their tabs on where Amir is again. Something like that. I don't even know if he's... I mean, he's fine. The BBC went to come see him in Barcelona City the other day. I mean, it's not like he's... It's weird. He's itinerant anyway, but like... I don't know. He doesn't have the same... I wouldn't know even if he was in like immediate trouble. Maybe he is now, and none of us can really understand because he's so nonchalant about it or otherworldly about it. He just doesn't understand the rituals of law, and you know. This is people's fascination with Amir, or like to a degree, kind of like why Amir is like this cherub of like crypto anarchy or something. People believe in Amir because he's like a child, you know. He's like a mythical figure or something. Like, I can believe in crypto because I believe in the innocence of this strange angel, you know, Amir Taki. Like, he's something else. At first it's ridiculous, but then you get it, and everybody gets it eventually. He's important just as like a moral force in Bitcoin.
So you saw the email I forwarded you from Amir?
What? What'd he say? Maybe I did.
So he said he's got a bunch of footage for me.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And then he's gonna dump it on his drive and give it to you next time you go to see him.
I'll take it. The thing is
that happening? Are you going to see him?
He's supposed to come see me, I think, before I come see him. Well, it's weird. Maybe I'll come to Spain first.
He's gonna come to the U.S.?
He wants to come to the U.S., yeah.
Can he come to the U.S.?
I don't know. But he's been meaning to. He wants to. He wanted to come in February, and I couldn't make it happen for him.
What has to happen?
No, I just meant I couldn't coordinate his... He was like, will you buy my tickets? I was like,
Oh, someone has to buy him a ticket.
I was like, no. but he wasn't even going to hang out with me. He was going to go to like this Pacific Bitcoin conference with like Adam Levine and like the Ethereum guys and stuff. And I was like, no, dude, fuck Ethereum, you know, like come to Texas, you know. He's like, oh no, we'll do that later. And I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing this. So I mean, he's got tons. You know, he lives on the kindness of like everyone around him. So I just figured he was gonna ask somebody else for a ticket, but he never did.
So he might come to the U.S. or you might go out there.
No, I will see him probably in Europe before he comes out. But he's been meaning for like 8 months now to come to the U.S. because I've gone over there twice now to see him. And I think if I took him away from his environs or whatever, like put him somewhere in like one place, he could like do some concrete work, you know, like for a series.
Well, maybe there's a way we can help get him out there too.
Oh yeah, I'm not asking for like he's gonna come. Thing is, like, there's some VCs that want to meet him in San Francisco because you know he's good, but even his press is getting crazy. Like the Independent named him one of the next billionaires or something. You know, just out of nowhere. This, you know.
It seems completely improbable.
No, it's not happening. Both Ashley and I read that article the same day, and we were like, oh man. I mean, yes, like he's on that level. He's that good of a coder, but he needs a whole like structure around him, you know. And he recognizes this. This is why the dark wallet thing worked. If Amir did the video and stuff, it would just fall flat. You know, you need a kind of conscious presentation. And all the other bullshit. You know, we handle the money, we handle the perks, we handle customer relations and stuff. He just wants to work on the code, you know. And then every now and then do his like moral thing that he does, where he espouses the integrities of coding, and you know. He has a certain worldview as well. And he wrote a big Libitcoin manifesto about it. I'll send it to you.
All right, so after Assange, you went back to Texas.
I kept trying to meet with Maya, MIA.
Yeah, that's right.
I kept trying to meet with her, man. And I emailed her like 2 days ago, too. It's just, I can't. And you know what? I regret it now because the same time I was with Assange, I was like literally 30 minutes from meeting this chick if I wanted to. And she was like, are we doing this? I was like, you know, it's too tight for me. I got a flight in the morning too, so I just didn't do it. Because I thought there'd be another chance. And normally I don't make that mistake. Normally I jump on that stuff, but it seems like I'm not going to be able to see her anytime soon. Yeah.
What does she want exactly?
I don't know what she wants very much. I think there's a general enthusiasm for WikiLeaks and for Defense Distributed. You know, she retweets me and tweets me on Twitter and stuff. I mean, she'll tweet something to WikiLeaks, tweet it to me at the same time. I think she just thinks that we're part of the same kind of, you know, postmodern political cloth. These are people doing the political things in the digital or something. And that's just, I think she's just enthusiastic about it on a, maybe just an artistic level. I don't know. But you get the feeling that she'd like to consider herself part of that fabric of activism. And she goes to see Assange, like I said, so. Yeah.
Okay, so you came back to Texas.
I've been staying between Texas and Little Rock pretty much ever since then, though. Now,
What's going on in Little Rock?
in Little Rock, I'm just seeing this girl. I'm in this relationship, which has become a bit more serious. So.
When did that start?
The relationship?
Yeah, to start when I was filming with you in October?
No, it started like many months before that, actually. But you know, kind of like in distance and stuff. But I mean, it was starting to get serious around that time as well. November, December, it was getting really serious. And anyway, now I'm kind of like, you know, living with her on and off. So, yeah. So I did just hire. It's weird because I'm between Texas and Arkansas. And I'm gonna lose my apartment soon. I'm gonna have to keep a place in Texas. I don't know where it's gonna be. But then again, John is comfortable. My engineer, John, is comfortable working in distance. I can kind of be anywhere. But I'd like to be in Austin with those gun ranges, filming stuff there, putting that on YouTube. Because there's like 2 or 3 big YouTube videos I know we can make. And I got to film a video for whenever the State Department does its eventual thing. That means I got to hook back up with the guys out in Fredericksburg. I got a little thing I want to put together with that. Like, it just seems I still have to have ties to Texas, if not for anything other than the visuals, just to present the kind of continuous, like the visual continuity of a Defense Distributed out in the wilds of Texas, you know, doing gun production and stuff. It's important to keep telling that story.
And so how did you and Sarah meet? Did you grow up together?
No. She was dating one of my fraternity brothers when I was in college, and I started talking to her like 2-3 years ago, 3-4 years ago now. I don't know, man. Time's moving fast. So, but it was never really a serious thing until it was. Like one day I just decided, hey, into 2012, once my gun stuff started happening, I just really started liking this girl. So, started talking, and then about 6 months later, I was like, I want to date you. So, we started dating.
Do you share that same ideology?
No, not at all. In fact, she's apolitical. I mean, she's totally like apolitical.
What about her family? Are they conservative or liberal?
No, her family are good liberals, so they
Really?
properly dislike me.
Huh.
But they, I think, are very polite about it. So. But like her mom talks so much shit about me, and it comes back to me through other people and stuff, like about like her relatives, and it's like, who's this terrorist you're dating? You know what I mean? Like this kind of shit. And I feel bad to a degree because I'm like, oh yeah, I forget about, because I'm so used to being me all the time, I forget that probably just like fucks someone's world up, you know. And Sarah's just so blasé about it. Like her parents are like, are you okay? You know, like, but she doesn't care. Like, so again, I think it amplifies the terror to some degree to them. At one remove, they're like, well, what's he doing over there? Like, is he? Don't let him get you involved in. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a dimension I hadn't counted on, because the girl I was dating before her was really independent and not, I don't want to say anything that kind of diminishes Sarah or something, but she was like a psychology PhD at Purdue. You know, she's up on like the discourses and stuff. So like we kind of understood and could talk about what was happening, and she could like contribute in a way that was just, it's totally different from now. Now I'm only seeing like the effects of what I do, kind of like feeding back to me. when I was with this girl Caitlin, it was different. It was like intrepid. It was like, oh, she was excited about the thing I planned to do, and her family understood, and it's like I'm dating like the normal. I'm just dating like a normal person now, and this is what happens when like extreme people try to date normal people. Shit, I mean, I don't think that should even. You know what I mean? Because that sounds so insulting, but I don't think that should even be.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can't do it. That's so misogynistic, man. Like
her parents don't want her to become like Jihad Jane.
yeah.
That's like their biggest fear.
Right, or even like I mean, it's true. Like that's I'm sure a dimension of it, but honestly, I think the core dimension is like they just want to tell her, this isn't gonna last, right? This guy has some kind of death drive or something, and they just kind of want to shield her from what is to them obviously going to end in like ruin, or I think that's just that simple.
People really think you have a death drive.
Well, I'm projecting a little bit.
Death or prison being synonymous.
I'm sure they don't even talk about the death drive. It's like a really post-Freudian thing, right? I'm just saying, like, this guy seems self-destructive. This can't go anywhere. That seems to be for me. But they've been really nice to me in person. And now it seems like I'm talking shit or something, and I don't mean to be. I hadn't counted on that. And in little ways, too, it still happens. Like, I'll meet somebody, and they'll be like, fuck, like... So right, but you live in that for long enough, and it's just like normal, I mean, it's just. The other day, I called up this guy, Robert Farrago. I was like, dude, can you intro me to these people? I was like, this silencer shop in Austin. He's like, man, like, they don't even know me. They know who you are, like, I still don't quite think on that level, like, oh, these people are gonna know me. I should call them, tell them who I am, I'm just so used to, and I'm in these little rooms like this all the time, not around many people. Like, I'm still in this mentality, like, I gotta keep my head down and hustle and get those connections and, like, work on people and stuff. I don't think I'm even using my notoriousness to the degree that I should be using it. Something like that.
So, post Little Rock, you went back to London for BBC and then Oxford.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot happened in the interim, actually, but what happened? Oh, I broke my wrist and stuff. This is not interesting, I guess, but...
It's all over... Well, in Oxford, I think, you were...
Oh, I had the thing on, yeah.
So how did you break your wrist?
Because it was snowing in, like, Arkansas, and I had to abandon my car, because, like, people in Arkansas can't handle... And I'm one of those people. I mean, like, we just can't handle snowy roads. I had to abandon my car, and then I walked for like 2 miles, and then, like, at the very end of the walk, I just slipped the right way. I was slipping all night, but that particular slip, I just caught myself the wrong way and broke my fucking wrist, just... Bam. So, it's been...
You had to abandon your car
yeah.
in the middle of the highway or whatever?
Well, I got off the main highway, but then, yeah, it was, like, stuck in this, like, ditch before a parking lot. And, like, there was this big sloping hill coming down, so there was all these cars coming behind me, like, almost running into each other and almost driving everybody else off the road. So I was just like, fuck it. I just left it. And then I had to walk back the next day with the broken hand to go get the... I don't know, it's not...
I should cut and reroll real quick.
Yeah.
It's not important.
Yeah.
So BBC Hard Talk.
I did some...
I watched Hard Talk, which was really interesting, but then I also saw the footage, Oliver's footage, in which you said it was it was a pain in the ass to a certain degree, and you were, they were putting words in your mouth or making you say certain things.
Who?
BBC Hard Talk.
Oh, shit. So through Robert, I was talking about the BBC thing.
Yeah.
I was down on the BBC thing after I had immediately done it. I was like... the way the questions moved was not exactly natural for me, and it wasn't like I felt I was unfairly treated. I just felt we moved too quickly. Everything was surface, and it's hard talk in the sense that it's hard to, like, reorganize your thoughts and keep presenting well over and over. So I felt like I ended up only saying things I've ever said before. I just felt like I didn't, and I had really prepared for that interview too, actually. I wanted to say a couple critical things that I just didn't have the presence to get out. But in editing, and then when I saw it, and I was afraid to watch it, but it started making the rounds on Twitter and stuff, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, it's not too bad. So, and then they played it on BBC Radio and stuff. So, okay, fine. I feel like it was like salvaged, but I was down on it before it was made into a media piece.
How did Oxford go?
I thought that went really well, so I was like down about my whole trip, still jet lagged. I thought I fucked up the BBC Hard Talk. I just missed opportunity, you know. It's like I got one thing left. Let's make this Oxford thing work. And I feel like I didn't have enough sleep, you know, and your camera guy was just around me, and I was just like, fuck. But it was just good. It just flowed. It was a good crowd of people. The questions were good. And I felt like I stood and delivered in a way that I don't always do. I'm not consistent about. At least my memory of it was good. But maybe it's the reverse of the BBC thing, so... again, I'm not like aching to watch the footage of it, but I felt like I felt like I delivered in a form that was going to be one of maybe the most challenging ones ever.
Yeah, this thing I sent you was like a 4-minute snippet.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really interesting. I thought it went well. I thought the speech was a lot shorter than I expected.
Oh, I just wanted to be like...
The Q&A was good. I think
Yeah.
People asked some interesting questions.
I just
They were
wanted to be...
intelligent questions.
Because I asked her what she wanted. She was like, oh, just do like introductory remarks and then we'll open up to questions because that's the format. It's kind of the very opposite of what I did at South by, where I just kind of like stood there for 45 minutes and just like issued. I prefer the Oxford thing. Like I prefer someone just being like, but what about this? But what about this? And we're like really doing it. We're just having it. And because I don't often have the discipline to, you know, interiorize and then like organize all of that stuff. And just stand there and say it for 45 minutes, you know.
Was it weird having your parents there?
Yeah, a little bit, but you know, I just kind of blocked it and then went for it. So, actually, the big thing for me is the standard thing. I just didn't want to fail in front of them. You know, I didn't want to. I wanted them to be, because they don't come to my stuff. I just wanted them to see that what I was about, what I was talking about. You know.
And so, what was the reaction afterwards?
Oh, they loved it. My dad loved it. My mom was like, you know, I just felt like you were eloquent, blah, blah, blah. I was like, thanks, Ma. You know.
Who's tougher, your mom or dad? Who's harder on you?
I was like a critic?
Yeah.
My dad, you know. My mom's like an enabler and an encourager and everything. My dad's like, I'm just like him, but he's like, the first thing he'll say is like, you know, you didn't do X. And I was like, because of course that's the thing I was thinking about, you know, so. I think we see things the same way, all that stuff, but he was enthusiastic too, you know. And I think he was quite. You didn't get this on camera because the guy didn't want to be, but this like French literature guy came up and we talked about Rancière and Badiou and stuff. My dad was like, he really liked that. He thought that was fun seeing that go down, you know. I think everybody liked it. I feel bad for my sister sometimes, just she has to sit through some of that crap, you know, but she got to see Oxford, so.
Is she older or younger?
Younger. Yeah, she's 22. Yeah.
So she had fun.
Oh yeah. They had a good time. I let them. They went to go see Christ Church and the colleges and stuff. Well, I kind of like chilled in the hotel and did some like stuff with your camera guys. And, you know, they did a bunch of sightseeing and stuff while I was preparing for BBC and not sleeping when I should have been sleeping, and so they made a good time with it. Yeah.
Is your dad still involved in the church at all?
Oh yeah, he's still like what did I say? Did I say he was not a pastor or something?
I forget we were talking about it early on because I was mentioning that my dad was a minister also.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's still a minister. He's still a pastor. He's a pastor. That's the Baptist. He pastored this church for like 15 years. I don't even know how long it is anymore. Maybe longer than that now.
He's still doing it?
Yeah, he still does it. And he's still he's like an expositor. He has a certain kind of hermeneutic discipline that he comes from. So he could do it until infinity, man. I mean, because it's like this. You take just small snippets of the text and then, you know, do a huge exposition. That's his method, man. So, yeah, still doing it.
Do you go watch him preach?
Yeah, when I'm in town, and he gets it too, because he's like, yeah, I get that you can't and you won't go somewhere else, and he gets it in a way that my mom doesn't. And it's interesting too. There's this cross pollination because it's like my dad all he wants now is for me to send him the books that I'm reading, because I mean, like he told me when I was in England, I don't feel like this is in any way betraying his confidence, but he was like, you know, for so many years, I think it's what a lot of conversations that people have with themselves after Snowden. It was like, I'd been living a certain way for so long, and now I can't avoid this other thing. And, you know, so many people don't like to think about the political or politics or what is politics or, you know, the philosophical implications of some of these things. And he was like, I just been avoiding it. And he's like, I see that you're doing something totally else, you know, and I regret that I've lived this long without trying to know and do some of this kind of stuff. And so we share ideas about it now in a way we didn't even really while I was doing the stuff in March of last year, you know.
Okay, so I guess that brings us up to now. Let's see what time it is.
I did South by, and there's this movie I'm in, but I guess you don't want to talk about that. That just got bought by Netflix, by the way.
Yeah, I was at Netflix a week ago.
Did you see it?
They told me about it.
The deal.
Yeah. They told me they bought it.
How long does it take that to get on to the actual platform? Like, will it be there in the fall or something?
It's hard to say.
Will it be there sooner?
My last movie got bought by Netflix.
Yeah.
In August.
You talking about the
Motivation.
The Motivation.
Skateboard movie.
Yeah.
It got bought by Netflix around, I think, September. It premiered in February.
Oh wow. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's short, right?
5 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
I had a question about something earlier.
Yeah.
I had a question. It's cool. You mentioned, maybe if this is stuff you already covered, then skip it. But you mentioned that you have contacts in the gun world outside of the NRA, but not. And like, I don't understand that dichotomy.
Oh. Well, yeah. So this is.
Talk to him. I'm not talking to him.
Okay. Let me represent it maybe. So this is what's you saw this a lot actually after Sandy Hook in like certain salon pieces and stuff like you know, the United Front of the gun movement is of course synonymous with the NRA, like the two are the same. This is not true, like it's never true to generalize a movement this way. If you want to call it a movement, you can call it a culture too if you want, but American gun culture is largely represented financially, materially by the NRA. The NRA is the biggest industrial and gun lobby in the Hill, no question. They are the biggest, you could say, legislative enforcer, template or agenda setter regarding the gun issue on the Hill. This is all still true. But actually ideologically and otherwise, like there's strong divergences in whole communities outside of the NRA that don't even affiliate with it. Some, you could say, if you want to use left-right, are to the right of the NRA. The GOA comes to mind. That's a 400,000 member organization that's about specifically the individual right of resistance, and this conversation specifically about tyranny against government, and not really so much playing to the whole sporting traditions, blah, 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 that the NRA tries to do. That's how the NRA tries to keep its moderate presentation, which wasn't actually so much of an illusion maybe 10, 20 years ago. Now it's a bit more of an illusion. A lot of the NRA board are kind of true believers who believe in resistance and the right of resistance against government, but that still doesn't come out in their play. Anyway, like, enough of diagnosing them. There's a huge gun world, gun culture, and alternative discourses about weapons and guns as a feature of civil society, totally outside the NRA thing. Not just in libertarian circles, but I mean, like, survivalism, which has now become kind of in vogue on TV, and a lot of this new age stuff is cross-pollinated with it, and big gun activists aren't connected with the NRA, like a lot of people out in Colorado, I mean, a lot of people out west. There's just a real, I mean, you get it, there's this rugged individualism that's associated with this, so a lot of independent communities, and I'm not just talking about, you know, like the posse comitatus types, the people who are like the guys who go up in the mountains and just hole up with their guns and stuff, or like the white nationalists and all these. I mean, there's just tons of communities that aren't NRA and wouldn't regard themselves as NRA, but are still part of the kind of agenda for individual rights for guns. Oh, and this is weird. Cambridge did this like anthropological article. I mean, it's a pure academic article, but I thought it was good, and I'll cite back to it a few times, because in the end they were trying to do some real, in situ sociological examinations of American gun culture, and it's normally kind of just portrayed as this pure right-wing thing, and Defense Distributed ends up getting put in there as this left-wing thing. And I was like, fine, in their dichotomy, like, by their rules, okay. We never just announced we were from the left, but in the same way, like, anarchism is the kind of conscience of traditional leftism, or wish to be. That's kind of what they're saying about the gun movement. I mean, we're coming from a place of, we originally were talking about the idea of equality and this, what's off this cliche of the democratization of the means and everything, and in a way that, we don't lead with right of resistance, or we didn't. Anyway, they were convinced by their terms of diagnosis that we were approaching the gun issue from the left, but pro-gun in a way they hadn't really seen before. And I thought that was useful, just to kind of demonstrate that it's not a ubiquitous, consistent, homogenous kind of culture. Mm-hmm. Man, like, so there's just so many points of potential disagreement. Like, no, this is like, let's diagnose it this way. The problem with the Orwellian frame of reference is that you can always say, well, we're not there yet. It's this way of like, well, there's a big brother, there's a conscious party apparatus, and then, it's kind of like bearing down the proletariat or whatever, or the proles in 1984, and there's like there's people behind levers, and anyway, this is like in the documentary The Obama Deception. This is the presentation that there's a secret cabal, of the people who are kind of. I'm not doing a good job here, but the Orwellian idea is not as useful as like the Kafkaesque idea. The Orwellian idea is like that strong power is there, and the boot smashes your face, and you're gonna head there one day, and then the power structure is gonna be over you, and there's nothing you fucking do about it. But there's a kind of comforting like religiosity to that. You can see that power in a way that the actual, I think, effective discourses about power totally dispel. Beginning with like Michel Foucault, but perhaps a little bit before him, certainly with Mr. Deleuze, like power becomes something that's anonymous and diffuse and part of social relations and part of institutional relations, and we have these mechanistic and enclosing disciplinary structures, the school, the barracks, the clinic, the large hospitals, and in the end, policy is about molding and creating docile bodies, and this isn't in the end, part of some conscious apparatus that's like dedicated to being like in control at all costs. You can always like characterize certain people as being like power hungry, or despots or corrupt or something, but this is in the end a kind of more comforting way of diagnosing something which we all feel is a little bit more elusive and deeper. Like the problem of fascism, the problem of the camp in the Holocaust is not one of a secret cabal of people. It's about that this whole industrial mechanism, this whole industrial thing could even happen in the first place. Like at every point, the civil society was able to be turned into this engine of death. That doesn't happen because of like a lapse from like the open society into darkness. I mean, it's something much more elusive and gradual. And in the end, the disciplinary structures themselves have kind of left. And whereas like before we expected to be normalized and be created maybe, and like these biopolitical measures of, cultivation of bare life and administration of life, they disappear from us altogether. We live in a society that proclaims itself free, and yes, okay, fine, there's still some elements of sovereignty that peek up every now and then. There's still a ton of control behind the scenes, and you see this with Snowden, and it's ugly. But in the end, like, that's not as strong as this huge system of object consumer capital and postmodern capital, and the flow of data and enculturation from all these media apparatuses, and the constellation of all this information, and how you are kind of tuned and modulated by these networks. Like this isn't that kind of totalitarianism. And so this whole like the last generation of free people, I mean, like in critical theory, the apocalypse happened decades ago. I mean, the apocalypse is over, man. Like we've gone beyond the end. Like we're into something else, and the terms and constraints of this discourse aren't freedom in the traditional sense. It's something else. Can we even think beyond these structures? Like, are we still human beings in some traditional sense? I mean, what is meaning when everything has it? Like the political takes on this much more monstrous, dreamlike, terrifying aspect, which is much more complex than this idea of, well, how can we remain free? Yeah, that's the doozy answer, I guess. So. I don't know how you can use any of that shit, man, because I know 5-minute answers aren't gonna, like, it's not gonna work in a movie,
Yeah, well, I'll figure that out.
A lot of anarchist practice ends up becoming something like primitivism. Like, all right, you just have to totally drop out. You have to totally go back to something almost like pre-capitalism, and even that is like one of these bogey words. But the other question is a characterization of cypherpunks as some kind of new elite or something. That seems to me to be a conflation of some kind of abreaction happening specifically like in the Bay Area, where above programming and app making and stuff, there's some of these people, the meritocracy stuff boils over with Ayn Rand, libertarianism, and this idea of real like separatism, and you get something like what's called the Dark Enlightenment. These people are actively wishing for the new Dark Age, when they can separate, when global power breaks down a little bit, and they can kind of create their own new states and mega companies that operate like roving nation states, and they're kind of the CEO kings of these things. And this is not the traditional. It is a tradition at this point. This is not cypherpunk, activism versus the state and its strictures. It's kind of reinvention of the mechanisms of power toward like the elevation or the great becoming men, the overmen of Nietzsche or something. Like, how can we create more Peter Thiels in the world, the kind of the great immortals, This is the conversation happening out there in the valley. It's not about freeing you. It's something even more perverse than the 80-20 society. It's like, you will all still be in the mechanism, and we're all Bree Pettis uses this metaphor, we're trying to build the rocket ship, man. I mean, we're going somewhere else. It's about pure and unabashed like social secession, social economic secession. We will have all the money, we will have all the power, and it's ours by right, because we should have it, and we're sick of being around you. This is like Atlas Shrugged, but not with the same kind of, but with the kind of enthusiasm that, totally removed from Rand's like, milieu or whatever. So I kind of saw a conflation there with how he characterizes cypherpunks. I don't see a class of noble cypherpunks funded entirely by Bitcoin. What I'm seeing right now, and this is kind of different even since we last talked, I'm seeing a bunch of these libertarians who got Bitcoin rich, who don't have a life in a worldview conditioned by anything. They're still kind of, this is a problem of youth too, I'm sure, but like, they don't know anything. They have no definitive worldview, and they're making all these weird mistakes, like Charlie Shrem, right? This guy got Bitcoin rich, and then thought he could participate with the state in like an intelligent way, and of course it got him arrested because he's playing with power, and he had no, you could say, mentors or conditioning of experience to really tell him what was at stake when you play with power like that. And the way he tried to make a direct overture to them, it was like Goodfellas, he wanted to get made, and he did, but not in the way he thought. It would have been the best for him to stay a money launderer, and to have never tried to achieve this legitimacy, which is like the fucking catchword. What we need to do when we go over there tomorrow, I've thought about this in my Dark Wall video, we just need to have a moment where, if you can just give me this one snippet of footage, Charlie Shrem and I are like together, and we hear you off camera say, on 3, 1, 2, 3, and we go like, legitimacy, and like we both smile. And I just want that little moment to tuck in my Dark Wallet release video.
Sure.
Because again, in the end, it becomes the total indictment of his original position, and also the demonstration of its futility. So, but anyway, yeah. And there's people like Shrem, there's people getting Shremmed, and then there's also like a phenomenon like this Bit Angels thing. All these people get Bitcoin rich, and then they decide, okay, well, we're going to be the new VCs, this noble class or something. And it ends up just becoming a kind of image of the thing that came before, that they're just operating the same way. It's not about challenging the operations and organizations of the social or of the political. It's literally just, again, about making the money. They're producing shit projects, shit software, It's just a bunch of pump and dump, pie in the sky stuff. Will good stuff come from it? Of course. When you play in a sandbox long enough, interesting things happen, you know. But again, it's this pure waste. And you'd think it would come from an ideological place for them because they're libertarians, they got Bitcoin rich, but nothing is guiding them. I can speak convincingly about that. I've done like conference calls with like the guys running this stuff, and their head's not in the right place, man. Then you get if I can take a pause, or if you need to.
Yeah, I need to just switch cards.
There's like 2 other things I want to talk about. I know this is way too long for you, but there's more to say. There's certainly no... Dude, crypto is like petering out. I mean, there are no cypherpunks. Most of the people in Bitcoin right now are carrying Bitcoin toward this integration with the financial system. We can't help but recreate the thing we say we're criticizing. Because at every point it seems a bit, oh, maybe it's interesting. Maybe this is some kind of like, bridge form, and it's a transition towards something else. No, it's mostly just developing technologies of the self to help bind people to power, to the traditional power structures, and, identify or validate or triangulate. Everyone's doing it. It's very disheartening. And again, like the way the regulations are coming down, if you want to spend time, if you want to make money, you have to end up making something in the image that the regulations dictate. So you can't do a big laundry, you can't do a big exchange in a company. You certainly can't make money off of it in America without facing all these, disclosure demands and reporting requirements, and in the end running afoul of all the laws that you thought Bitcoin would be able to allow you to break. And so you give that over and you say like, well, we'll get there. The structure itself, it's kind of determined that we're going to get there. That's not obvious, and it's not happening. I would say that the pendulum is fully in the direction of Bitcoin just kind of becoming another tool of institutional banking and the financial system. Simply because there's not enough ways of thinking about Bitcoin as an alternative, as an actual alternative, like a line of flight away from that system. And there's not an actual enough amount of doing in that direction. And that was really the content of my speech in London last year at the Bitcoin Expo.
Yeah, which we have on film. So what happens when Dark Wallet comes out?
Well, I hope
Best case scenario.
Best case scenario, we get tie-ins with hardware, with miners. People wanna run it. It needs to be the interface for people. If it's developed publicly enough, broadly enough on the internet, everyone can find all the bugs, and we'll really have something. This is something which suggests an era of greater obfuscation, of greater money laundering, of confidence in identity, or at least of confidence in anonymity, or at least pseudonymity, and encouragement of this alternative direction. I mean, literally, like, no one else is doing a prominent anarchist Bitcoin dev, I mean, it's weird. I feel... CryptoKit came out and this other thing came out. Everyone's like, oh my God, Bitcoin in the browser. Yeah, we did it. The moment's here. Nah, man. None of these companies are willing to go like all the way, which is just like, how can I anonymize you? How can I help you, scatter that Bitcoin into the internet? And then something like Gox happens, Gox collapses, and everyone goes, the silence from the dark wallet is deafening. Like, like the problem is somehow anonymity. No, the problem is, look, the problem is, again, centralization. People trying to add sinners to this structure. If you're going to have one big exchange, it's going to be the target of constant attack. I mean, you've got to develop you have to develop decentralized exchange. That's the next big thing. And look, we're making that need to be the next thing because laundry is coming to the next level. We're making sure of that. All right? I mean, there's going to be more Bitcoin hacks. There's going to be more furious kind of, escape of Bitcoin down all the different rabbit holes. I mean, that's coming. People are going to use the dark wallet or its derivatives to do that. It's a challenge, and it's a challenge most people won't rise to. They'll use it as an excuse to hide behind it. We'll get regulations, and then we'll have witch hunts and stuff.
So let me continue on with this question. Julian Assange proposes exactly this, quote, Soon there will just be the last free-living people, those who understand how to use this cryptography to defend against this complete total surveillance, and some people who are completely off the grid Neo Luddites that have gone into the cave, or traditional tribes people who have none of the efficiencies of a modern economy, and so their ability to act is very small, end quote.
But here's the thing, how should I say this? We're already like fully in the age of virtuality. I mean, it's interesting that you said infotainment. How about this?
I want to ask you too about Palmer and Oculus going to Zuck.
Isn't that crazy? I meant to call him and congratulate him for that.
What do you think about that? Because Hunter was really upset.
Oh no, it's terrible in one sense, but it made him rich. So I mean, I just want to congratulate him for being rich. Yeah, it's weird too because I think Facebook was like done making acquisitions, right? And then they fucking bought Oculus.
They bought WhatsApp for $20 billion.
It's crazy, man. That's like when we're in this era of like I saw the Zero Hedge takedown of that. I mean, what's the value of? Show me the concrete relation between like the use or exchange value of a service like WhatsApp and its users, and that valuation, that level of just like extraordinary amount of money that was thrown at it. I mean, there's no, we're just in this free floating orbit of just of excess.
Well, let's remove money from the exchange. How do you feel? Because this is what I want to get to, and this is what I was trying to talk to Hunter about. It's like, what about the partnership between Palmer and Mark?
No, how
do you feel about
what
that?
What was Oculus's origin? I mean, Palmer was working with DoD in the beginning. I mean, this is not an aspersion. I'm just saying, like, these libertarians, these Peter Thiel libertarians, these founders 50. I mean, the people that we're really interested in already have a connection to DoD, DARPA, MIT. I mean, that's where they come from. Palmer got his start because he was working on some of the legacy VR and headset stuff from special projects with DoD and some of their private partners. And what he saw was his market opportunity was that there was such collusion there. All those providers could sell headsets for like $5-6 grand or like way more, and no one in the market wanted to undercut them because they were all making a ton of fucking money. So he just took a military technology and kind of retailized it a little bit. It's not surprising to me that he would then kind of give it over to basically the middleman of all personal data mining, Mr. Zuckerberg. And it's consistent with, I've been calling Facebook a technology of the self for a long time, as I'm sure a ton of people have, but it is consistent with this idea that eventually you'll just be able to kind of immerse yourself in your own virtuality, right? In the weird kind of presentations of your fragmented self. I mean, that's good and just that you should be able to do that. Isn't it puny now that I can only experience Facebook on this screen? Like, I want to bathe in Facebook, So it's good. Like, this is the directionality. And back to Hunter's previous question about like, oh, there's going to be this final conflict of free men. No, man, there's going to be this imperceptible slippage into nothing, to where the critical question isn't asked anymore about, well, what is the real, or what is my connection to something like lived reality? That won't even make sense to ask that question. I don't even know if we even have the capacity to ask it. I mean, there's something tremendously terrifying about the transhuman moment to come. And virtuality, Facebook, these things, it's all part of that demonstrates a kind of totally different civilizational arc. It's not about the last bastions of freedom. It's about the last bastions of the people who think man, who think freedom. I mean, do you see the distinction? I'm not doing a good job. It's like, if I'm asking the question, am I a zombie? I'm still probably a human, But there'll be like a whole order that the question doesn't have any reference. It doesn't make any sense. Am I a zombie? That doesn't make... And we're all gonna move over to that. Like, there's a cult about it, the singularity.
Yeah.
There's a whole cult about it. Like, the end is celebrated. It's like that Hail Bob Comet shit, man. It's like, we'll all go put on our sneakers and get in our VR bags, and then, like, we're all going to move over, Like the end of Middle Earth or whatever in Lord of the Rings. It's time for us to go,
What's that book I was reading about this? Ready Player One.
I don't know. It's a virtuality game thing, like, about how... Yeah. And there's bigger things than that. Like, I'm not up on my my cybernetics and my virtuality stuff right now. I'm still purely in like this I'm still trying to develop my own vocabulary for just critiquing the particularities of the situation I'm in. I see something much more terrifying and also curious and also seductive. That's not just Assange is fighting a real fight against nation states. He experiences the deep state on a level that we never will. You know, he sees its machinations in the way that only the people who used to play the Patriot games behind the scenes see it. But here's the thing, and this starts to give you an idea, like the FBI had a disinformation agency or program, right? Oh, how terrible and pernicious. In the end, you never needed that. Yeah, that's really scary and awful, but like the profusion of information itself is more successful than any disinformation agency. I mean, our own self-censorships and self-protestations and incantations, like to, you know, the grand informational universe are much greater than any mass program of surveillance. I mean, yes, it's scary that there are operators behind the scenes who can like get the goods on you, but you give them anyway. I mean, that's how you individuate yourself. I mean, that's how you are individuated. Like, if not by sharing in this huge swirl of like random data about yourself, you know, how are you to be created? How are you to exchange with other people? I mean, and I don't think I'm just being flippant about this. Surveillance is almost the distraction from the fact that like privacy as a category, as a form, isn't even the relevant question. I think I've gone over at some point past some line I know I can't come back from, or like the motto in my mind is like, don't go home, like what's the point, like why would you go home now? Or also there's this kind of thing where if you keep upping the stakes to yourself, you're gonna drive yourself to some absurd or ridiculous moment where, like, you know, you push yourself into something stupid and destructive just because you're bored of any other possibility. I'm worried that I'm creating myself as some kind of character that I'm gonna, in the end, the caricature itself will carry me off into like stupidity or absurdity. You know, I'll do things that I wouldn't have normally done just because I want to serve some meta interest about my own presentation. I don't know. Liberator was like a unifying thing. Like I knew what I wanted to do, and like everything was lined up so well. Like they just continued to try to stop me, and it was just fun and dangerous and enjoyable doing it. I don't have something like that just grips me and pulls me and takes all of my energy like right now. And without that, yeah, I worry that I'll kind of wander into something absurd or stupid. Yeah. I'm not sure that's exactly what you meant to ask, but
yeah, I think it is. I think what he's getting at is that there's a fear that you will either end up, you know, in prison, or maybe worse, like sort of like this talking head for the BBC, and you know, that they'll draw you. You know, whenever
they just call me again.
Whenever they need you to say something radical, they can give you a call, and then you just end up writing books and.
Yeah,
you know.
I've already seen that. Like, and it's good. The critical, suspicious impulse. It's like, you know, this guy. Anarchism isn't mainstream. What's this guy doing on mainstream TV? You know, like, I saw back in the Liberator days, it was like, this guy's obviously CIA, you know, like, they don't put someone like this on TV, you know, like, he's clearly part of it, you know, he's not part of us. Yeah, so, I mean, I get that. I don't know. I got a book I mean to write about what happened. But I don't plan to become like a writer or anything. And in the end, I don't know. At the end, the only successful strategy is to disappear and come back as someone else. So maybe I'm done. But maybe I'll get to do things somewhere else as someone else.
Like the calligraphers in ancient China?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any active plans, but I mean, if this person becomes too constrictive or uninteresting, then you shouldn't be around, you know? Same time though, like yeah, there's a certain kind of confidence about, you know, I went to law school, I read about the Fourth Amendment, read about the Fifth Amendment. I mean, like you understand certain things that you can get away with, and like there's a will to kind of stand in front of the cops and tell them what they can and can't do. I've never actually done that. I've gotten thrown out of football games and roughed up by cops and stuff before, and in our fraternity I've gotten, kind of, yelled at and like pushed around by cops and stuff. But I've not even confronted cops like Amir has. Amir will just go fight cops, like like with his friends, as long as it's in a big group. One time I came up there and Amir was roughed up. He had blood on his shirt and stuff. He was like, "Yeah, man, the fucking fascist cops did this to me, man." Like he's excited about fighting them. It's on a totally different level, even for me and like Charlie. Ours is what a kind of middle class contempt or something for the police, but his is a kind of active disregard or hatred. Or...
Yeah, because he's a squatter, so they're getting
Yeah.
fucked with all the time.
That's right, and Amir's more interested in. This is why Amir and I started working together. He would show me. He's just interested in causing them loss and damage. If he can create like a kind of spike that can like ruin a police car or APC or something, like he would rather create that than create something like productive and beautiful. I mean, that's the thing that really gets him going. I'm not that much of like a kind of, I don't know, like pure pugilist about it. I mean, I think you can do like beautiful levels of violence on a huge kind of, stage. I don't have replacement ideas for Liberator anytime soon. I think Dark Wallet's good, and if we can tag Losky and some of these other people, we can create the same level of like trollage, if you will. I mean, get them really hot about the fact that, too bad you staked your reputation and your career on your own futility, so it's not just pure property damage for me. But anyway, I don't know, man. I'm not afraid of cops, if that's where we're going. Yeah, I'm not afraid. I recognize that they can kill you, though.
Did I ask this? Do you consciously put a cap on how publicly radical you come across?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say it. Like, even right now, I'm doing it. In fact, now it's becoming. Here's the thing: you watch yourself, you do these things so much, and then you end up having a TV personality. You're not being yourself anymore, or whatever that used to mean. I mean, I even feel like right now I'm not. It's not pure communication. It's like I'm presenting myself in a certain way, and that certainly happens on TV at a certain level. Sometimes I'll kick it up a register, and I'll be like extra formal or something. Maybe this is just how we relate with people and the dynamics of interpersonal. Like in the moment, this is what you got to do. You got to modulate. But yeah, I've caught myself talking like my TV voice to Sarah sometimes, or like my TV voice to my dad, and I'm like, like it's a thing that you turn on, you turn off, and. Beforehand, I used to have limited engagements. I thought I was on a ramp to somewhere, and so I did Glenn Beck, and I was like, all right, it's important I come across like this way. And then I had this other thing, it's important I do this. But now it's past its end, right? I don't even have objectives. I mean, I'm trying to sell the Dark Wallet, but I don't have the same level of like strategy I had with Liberator. I'm not. Each engagement isn't in an express service of some goal or some end. I don't know where it's going. It's creating me more than I'm creating it, I don't know. Maybe it's a gratuitous admission, but I think. See, at this point, I'm even talking too much because you just want something from me. But I mean, I think that something like that's true. I mean, I'm not as conscious as I was about what I'm trying to get from some of these exchanges. I think the hard talk thing I recognize is just a clear opportunity. Last time I was in London, I did BBC Radio, and I got to fight some Interpol guy, some Europol guy on the radio, and he was like, the things I've seen, and I was just like, fuck you, man, the deep web. And, like, it's not for you, like, you don't get to be, like, the watcher or whatever. And every time I get to do big British platform stuff, I try to be, like, I think of their culture as, like, this culture of the last man and everything, and I just try to say I just want to say really clear things about this alternative way of thinking, and people will always email me. They inevitably email me about like, oh my God, awesome, thanks. And I started, this is crazy. I've never heard about this before. So that's all I've really got left with British media. But again, yeah, it's kind of diverting me into this caricature that I don't really have much control of. I can't, I'm sure there's some things we, won't talk about, thankfully, and can't talk about. It would just be pure prostitution, right? To kind of just put it on camera. But. Or maybe that's a way of trying to preserve yourself, to say, well, there's some secret interiority to me that you can never know. I would say that there's ways of saying things I know I can't get away with right now. There's ways of things I would like to do, things I'd like to be able to do, that I don't have the power to do. And I've made myself vulnerable in ways that have to change how I want to approach some of that. So, yeah. And actions speak louder. So, there's secret beliefs you should know about, Mr. Cody Wilson. No, there's things I'd like to do that I'd like you to see, but I can't tell you about them before I do them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, that would make me really happy to do some of those things. So that's all I have really left. Just thinking that I might actually still be able to do a couple of these things. The things I'm not telling you about. So.
Secret project.
You know.
This is what keeps you going.
Yeah, just the idea that kind of like.
These projects are what keep you going.
Like becoming man, like that I might still actually have the opportunity to like do something even like more insane, and not just at the pure level of spectacle that like, oh my God, that this was actually something I could do, that I see some of these things kind of coalescing. I'm like, oh my God, can I get away with this? Can I really do this? It's incredible. Like, I had not even considered living on that level. And like, to even talk about it this way, right? Like, I'll probably never do anything again. You know, you'll never hear me like a year from now or something. And like, I'm done. But like, to even dare to think about some of this stuff, it's like, you start getting into a place where like no one's been. I mean, like you see Assange and some of these other guys, he's playing a different game at a different level, but it's like, you start looking around, like no one's even trying to compete with you. I mean, what's available to you in this space that's opening is like, it's scary, like the fucking potential of it all. And that's what I just keep thinking about, yeah. I get worried about getting pulled into like just pure hedonism, or like the false comfort of like, oh, just like write stuff, and like, just be you can do the liberty circuit. Everybody's content, especially in the libertarian world, to just be a personality in this revolving circuit of personalities, and to just go kind of present themselves. And it's this constant preaching to the choir. And I get that a movement has to have something like that, I guess, but this is almost a stillborn movement, man. These are people who are, I mean, it's purely about the culture of just differentiation. Like, I want to buy libertarianism because I'm comfortable. I like to be a libertarian. I like to be thought of as that. And so I'll create this collection of objects and books and discourses around me, which then define me. This is just pure participation in something like, it's consumerism of ideology, And they're not even interested in fact, that world of freedom where people organize things for themselves is actually scary to them. They would prefer to remain intellectuals. They would prefer to remain indispensable parts of think tanks and useful, right? Because the world that they imagine has no real use for the pure intellectual. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And that's the creepy feeling I get from that whole circus.
Oh, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of when William Shatner called Star Trek Trekkies a bunch of nerds, and they all lashed out because he got tired of going to all those Star Trek conventions. He's like, I'm sick of being around these nerds, and then like it was like this huge thing. Oh my God, you can't call us nerds.
What? Oh, that's funny, man. I didn't. How long ago was that? That must have been a while ago.
It was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a big thing.
Now it's cool to be a nerd. It's one of the cool things to be. Comic-Con and, video game culture, that shit's all going mainstream. I mean,
there's so much money in it.
Shatner doesn't know.
Does he know? I don't know. But yeah, that's certainly what's happening. The libertarian culture, if you will, is just camp. It's camp right now.
Yeah.
And literally too, right? You go out into a field and you all kind of like dance and like hula hoop and like listen to music and like, oh, this is agorism, like, and that sucks because I know there's gonna be like people from Free State who see this one day, or fuck you, Cody Wilson, like,
yeah.
We've been trying for 10 years to fucking build our own universe, and these guys, some of these people are doing real agorist work, but it's like, you can't also escape the fact that it's become this camp. Yeah. Who am I? Yeah. What, you do one thing, you get authority now? So but that's my diagnosis.
Let's take a break.